We are going to be giving you information on a homicide arrest. Homicide detectives with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office have arrested 40-year-old Brandon Engelman, also known as Milkweed, of Coarse Gold. He's been booked into the Fresno County Jail on a charge of murder, which carries a bail of $1 million. He is in custody on other charges not related to this murder. On the afternoon of April 13th, Fresno County Sheriff's deputies responded to a house located at 5590 West Olive in Fresno to check on a possible injured person. Deputies arrived and found a car that had crashed through an iron fence and was parked on the front lawn of a house. Inside the car was a man later identified as 56-year-old Pacer Hampton, who was deceased from apparent gunshot wounds. Homicide detectives arrived on the scene and immediately received great cooperation from neighbors in the area. They provided surveillance video, which ultimately revealed images of a possible suspect vehicle. The Sheriff's Office released photos to the public of that vehicle, a white Chevy Tahoe. Tips about the SUV were called into our office and given to Valley Crime Stoppers. Simultaneously, detectives had been conducting interviews and learned Brandon Engelman was the likely shooter. He also happened to have access to a white Chevy Tahoe. On May 11th, search warrants were served at homes in Coarse Gold and in the city of Fresno. While in a neighborhood near Ashland and Marks Avenue, deputies on the Fresno County SWAT team contacted Engelman and placed him under arrest. During the course of the searches, detectives recovered the Chevy Tahoe in question. This remains an ongoing question. Detectives believe others are involved in this crime. However, we are confident that Engelman is the shooter. We do know that this is not a random shooting. Hampton was specifically targeted. I can't stress enough that the successful outcome after 1 month is thanks to the great collaboration between many people and agencies who worked tirelessly around the clock. This includes Fresno County Sheriff's homicide detectives, its crime analyst, SWAT team, and the crime scene unit, MAGIC, the multi-agency gang enforcement consortium, the adult compliance team in partnership with Fresno County Probation, the Madera County Sheriff's Office, the California Highway Patrol, and the Fresno County District Attorney's Office. As I said, we believe that more people may be involved or have information about this homicide that we may need. And anyone who wishes to share that information, they may be relative to this case, is asked to contact Detective Gary Haslam at 559-600-8209. You also can contact Valley Crime Stoppers at 498-7867 or www.valleycrimestoppers.org. And remember, you can remain anonymous. Now, as I said, we could not have done this without great partnership. Solving this homicide is what I call a team sport. And we had great partners to work with. And right now I'd like to introduce one of those great partners, Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Good afternoon. This case is the latest in a series of multi-agency investigations by MAGIC, the Sheriff's Department, and the District Attorney's Office that partner with other agencies. Just as the Sheriff said, we could not do this without the collaboration and the teamwork. Previous investigations like this have taken months to prepare and execute, but the experience they have given these teams has allowed them to apply the same techniques to this homicide case. When time is of the essence, they were able to accomplish in days what would have taken months and weeks in years past. This would only be possible through the willingness of our partners to jump on board with these fast-moving investigations. We really need to thank, in addition to the people who are up here, the California Highway Patrol, the California Department of Justice, the Madera County Sheriff's Department, as well as the Madera County District Attorney's Office, for helping us quickly and without hesitation because of the trust they have in the MAGIC unit in Fresno County to build this investigation to its fruition. In addition 2, being able to arrest the suspect in this investigation for the murder of Pacer Hampton, the investigative team was able to prevent at least 2 additional acts of violence in both Fresno and Madera counties, as well as uncover previously unknown violent acts of Mr. Engelman that were committed in addition to the murder. Just this morning, he was arraigned for 3 abuse and domestic violence that had previously occurred but were unknown before the investigation began. He is charged in the first complaint with a violation of Penal Code Section 207, kidnapping, a violation of Penal Code Section 368B1, elder abuse, and a violation of Penal Code Section 273.5, commonly referred to as domestic violence. He has 3 prior serious or violent offenses in his criminal history. His prior strikes are for home invasion robbery, criminal threats, and residential burglary. From his rap sheet, we see that thanks to Magic and the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, along with the partners mentioned, we have taken a very dangerous man who is associated with the white supremacist groups of gangs here in Fresno off of the streets today. His exposure, as currently charged, is 45 years to life. Currently, we are reviewing the murder case, which the sheriff referred to, and anticipate that charges will be filed and that he will be arraigned this coming Tuesday in the Fresno County Superior Court. That case will be separate and apart from the case that was mentioned earlier, and he will face further prison time for that after the charges are filed. And thank you so much, Sheriff, for having us today.
So again, due to the strength of our partnerships, we have taken this very dangerous and violent person off our streets. So with that, are there any questions?
The homes where you served the search warrants, how are they related to Mr. Engelman?
One he lived in, and the other he frequented.
Did the victim and the suspect know each other prior to this?
Yes, they were acquainted and, in fact, had a long-going dispute between the two of them.
In regards to?
They just had a disagreement. They didn't like each other.
So I assume, since you say that you do believe that Hampton was targeted, it's because of this long-term disagreement?
Right now, that's the only reason we can think of why this might have happened. But of course, we're still looking at this, but that's what we identified. They had a long-going dispute that has lasted for a long time.
Was the suspect cooperative when you guys encountered him? Because you did say the SWAT team was involved.
Yes. What we do before we involve SWAT is we actually measure how dangerous the search warrants are. And we actually score them and make a decision on whether or not we involve SWAT. But because we know of his prior history, because of the presence of weapons, because of gang membership, we took the SWAT team with us.
And do you have any specifics on what gang he was involved with?
Sure. He was part of a white supremacist group. Specifically, he identified as a Fresneck.
And they have a long-standing, they're pretty active in Fresno and Madera, aren't they?
They are active, and in fact, this isn't the only investigation we've had that involves white supremacist groups. One thing that the DA mentioned when we were briefing is we're going to identify those who cause problems, no matter what they belong to, no matter what their beliefs, and if they're involved in criminal activity, we'll take action.
And the charges that he was initially arrested on, can you tell us what those were?
Sure, they involved a family member, as well as an acquaintance of his, the domestic violence. Of course, we have a confidential victim there. But they formed from having information about a relationship he had with a family member and crimes he perpetrated against them.
And so essentially a domestic call led you to, or some domestic charges led you to something greater.
Well, the murder investigation led us to the domestic violence and the other charges. Yeah.
The family member, I did hear, I believe it was elder abuse charges too. So was this an older individual?
It was an older family member.
Is there any relation you can give us, a parent, a grandparent, an in-law, a brother, sister?
No, we have a confidential victim.
Was there any specific piece of evidence that really led you to this? You talked about surveillance video, you talked about tips coming in,
Yeah.
and of course the work that was going on. Was there anything specific that really helped connect the dots?
Well, it took everything put together, and all of the techniques that we used. And it took surveillance, it took interviews, it took technology, it took a lot of things, including just good police work from everybody involved, that when we put it all together, the pieces met and fit and resulted in us being able to work with the DA to get charges.
And the DA touched on this, but I mean, that working relationship between, multi-agency and different counties, I mean, it really was on display in this case, right?
Well, not only was it on display, it wasn't, remember, many professions, you work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We're talking about having this relationship 24 hours a day, calls in the middle of the night, on weekends, and that's still ongoing. And that's really what helped us pull all of this together, that the availability and the encouragement and the cooperation, the excitement when you get involved in an investigation like that, and when you know you can help bring it to a close, it's exciting to us. And I truly appreciate that, and the results are as a result of those partnerships.
You kind of mentioned that he possibly had weapons on the property. Did he, and then also was any of those weapons possible to murder weapon?
We have recovered weapons, but we need to be able to prove now that the weapons that we have, one of them may be involved.
Are they registered to him, or is he convicted of them?
I don't have that information.
The second part of that, though, he did have several previous violent crimes. Was he a convicted felon prior to this?
Yes.
And then I know that you said you do believe he's the shooter, but there may be other people involved. How many more people are we thinking?
Well, we don't know exactly how many. We know at least one, maybe more, that has information that we need that may have been involved, may be wanted for other crimes, in fact. But we know that he talked to several people during this investigation that might have information that would help us.
And Sheriff, even though these two had a long-standing dispute, whenever you get into a case like this, there were chances of innocent people really being impacted because of he was shot at an intersection. Plenty of homes around, and luckily the car went off road after he got shot. This could have been a lot worse.
Well, it could have been because, as you mentioned, this was a car-to-car shooting. And what made it even more difficult, we didn't get the call of the person in the car deceased for 13 hours. Anytime there's a delay from the time that a homicide occurs to the time it's reported to us, that's precious time. In spite of that, the detectives were able to work through it and come up with a suspect and make the arrest.
The two acts of violence that were prevented, can you elaborate on that?
Probably not.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Not right now. Any other questions?
Well, did the victim shoot back at all? That was deceased, or was it just Engelman that was shooting at the car?
We don't have any indication that the victim returned fire.
Is there any indication that the suspect vehicle tried to ram the victim vehicle at all, or just shot at the vehicle?
Just shot at the vehicle. All right? Thank you all very much, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.